Nebraska, for as long as it's been here, has been a beef state.
Here, in the middle of the country, lies Nebraska, the beef state, the unofficial nickname that first appeared on license plates in 1956. In Nebraska, agriculture is the state's top economic driver, and beef cattle production is the largest sector within that. Nebraskans produce about 25 million head of corn-fed beef cattle a year. That means there are more than 3 times as many beef cattle as people roaming around.
We've brought in leading experts and leading companies who understand the conversion of muscle to meat, who can really hone in on how do I amplify this cut.
The University of Nebraska is known for its cutting-edge research in many areas. The results of those endeavors have found their way into our everyday lives. In the grocery aisle, a promising cut of Flatiron steak has its origins in seeing potential product left on the cutting room floor. Researcher Chris Calkins spent 40 years at the university studying fresh meat and analyzing its quality, flavor, taste, and color.
There was a period of time in the late 90s where the value of beef cattle, the value of the meat, was declining. And that was cause for alarm. So I was part of a group who did a project called Muscle Profiling.
Funded by the Beef Checkoff, the multi-university research team worked with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association to identify new cuts of meat.
The goal was to create an encyclopedia of knowledge about all of the muscles in the shoulder and in the back leg of the animal. So the Muscle Profiling project was designed to identify those diamonds in the rough, the chance to add value and increase eating satisfaction for our customers. The ultimate outgrowth was to identify approximately 15 different cuts of meat. Chief among those was the Flatiron steak. We sell approximately 100 million pounds of those now in the US. Before the project, none of them were sold as steaks.
Jordan Wicks is an assistant professor and meat extension specialist at UNL. She wasn't part of the study, but she understands the university's role in tackling issues that affect the meat industry. Part of developing the Flatiron was to figure out how to cut around a seam of connective tissue that wasn't so tender.
The front arm and the back leg, those are usually what we consider a tougher product. But there's an anomaly when we talk about the Flatiron. The Flatiron is actually the second most tender cut, and it sits back here on your shoulder. It'll be tender. It's something that you can put on a steak salad because it will bite with like the lettuce. It's a little bit more cost-effective than buying a filet.
We used to think that muscles in the round and the chuck were the ones that allowed the animals to move. And so they did a great deal of work while the animal was walking. But some of those muscles in the chuck just do this, and they don't work that hard. Therefore, they're very tender.
There is a caveat to that. We want to make sure we don't overcook that one. That's very important to cook that to a medium well. Otherwise, it does start to get a little bit of a livery flavor.
When it comes to the Flatiron name, that's actually an old name that's been around for 100 years in the industry, but it fell out of use. It has a connotation of an Old West steak that is flavorful and tender.
The Flatiron was officially recognized and hit the market in 2002. In the 2 decades since, meat researchers continue to conduct research that positively impacts not only the beef industry, but the consumer as well.
Every industry has to make money. I genuinely think a lot of people in the meat industry are here to serve our global population. We want to feed the world. That is really what we want to do.